Hello and welcome to Rightwing Nation. The last time that I filmed this was during lockdown. So that probably explains why a lot of the more recent stories you guys are seeing are sort of out of date or more irrelevant or more you wouldn't care about any of it. Yeah, because I tried to get a bunch of massive stories, and as you guys can see, there was a lot of stories and had a lot of editing, and I'm literally just recording and editing. There's only one person really doing this. So what I'm thinking is, for this next, for the first few episodes, I'll probably try to figure out how I'm going to do this, like mess around with the format, and yeah, so bear with me. We'll hit our stride eventually. But yeah, there's been a lot that's happened since we went into lockdown. The first, of course, has been the vaccine mandates. This was for all of pretty much every healthcare worker and education worker. They all had to be vaccinated or they lost their job. Now, I don't think we've gotten a lot of, or too much of the figures or the stats for exactly how many people lost their job, because they gave a deadline, and that was, I don't remember which day it was, but it was like a few weeks ago, and it was basically, once that deadline happened, a lot of people had quit their jobs. We're not too sure how many people lost their jobs. I've seen this, and I'm going to have to look into it more, but yeah, we've seen a few, but I think we'll probably take a while for the true numbers to come out. Probably by the time this comes out, it'll already be out in, January, possibly even February 2022. So naturally, what a lot of people are wondering is, well, how is the government planning on filling up the roles of all the people who lost their jobs? Well, apparently they have given 300 border exemptions to teachers. Now, let's put aside any discussion about immigration. That's not really the main important subject that at least I want to focus on right now. Because if you think about it, these people are being given, they're punished, or they're not fired, but well, sometimes they are, but they've been given an ultimatum where if they didn't want to undergo a medical procedure, which New Zealanders are allowed to, and as said in the Bill of Rights right here. I know, actually, I'll leave a link in the description in case any member of the Labour government or Parliament or any of the New Zealand government as a whole, I recommend you guys giving it a read. It would definitely help us out in the long run, not you guys, us, the regular Kiwis. But they are basically said, if you do not want to undergo this medical procedure, that being being vaccinated, then you'll be getting fired, or you'll have to quit. Let's put aside any issue about the vaccine. That is messed up. Now, personally, I don't have a very strong opinion on the vaccine or any of the COVID vaccines. I know a lot of people are sort of more, these vaccines, they're pure good and they'll help us fight COVID. And you've got like the anti people who are like, these vaccines, they're hooked up to these cell towers and 5G, or, okay, to be honest, I'm not too familiar with the anti-vaccine argument. But me, I'm sort of more in the middle. I respect people's right to choose whether or not they want to be vaccinated. Unlike the New Zealand government, who doesn't respect that decision at all, and especially considering Jacinda Ardern herself did say in the past, in 2020, that there would be no penalties for anyone who was unvaccinated. But now, if you don't get vaccinated, you're losing your job. But getting back to lockdown, even though I didn't really discuss it much at all, but I needed a segue to make this, to get naturally and to start talking about the story. Let's talk about something that I don't think was been talked about much during the lockdown, or when it happened. Apparently, 30,000 surgeries were put off, or cancelled, or delayed while lockdown was happening. Now, these surgeries, there were a lot of them. There were cancer surgeries, gynecological. I don't know how you say that, but you guys can see what the word is. Brain surgeries, and she said, while apparently the most important ones were done, there were quite a few who their health for the ones that were put off, there were quite a few who had deteriorating health, and were still in pain because they could not do the surgeries. And the reason these surgeries were put off was because they were expected, or they were trying to prepare in case they were overwhelmed with COVID-19 cases. Now, I will bring up the COVID cases. I know a lot of people are like screaming at your computer, discussing about like all the cases and that. Don't worry, I'll get to that, but right now we're going to focus on these surgeries right now. Now, the Cancer Society's medical director, Chris Jackson, he was talking about how they had the number of diagnoses, I don't think it's the correct term to say, but you get the idea, they might have been a bit impacted by COVID, but he also said that it had to be, like what they did had to be weighted with the fact that people with cancer are susceptible to the virus. I thought everyone was susceptible to the virus. Now, I have never experienced cancer, thankfully, and my heart goes out to everyone who has either experienced cancer or have had a loved one who have experienced or died for cancer. It is a horrible disease, so I might not be the right person to talk about this, but I'm going to play you this clip of one of the cancer patients who had her surgeries cancelled or postponed or rescheduled because of lockdown.
Cancer patients accuse the government of playing with people's lives by cancelling more than 37,000 surgeries due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Jay Reynolds-Carey had her double mastectomy called off 3 times last month. Here's Mitchell Alexander.
When New Zealand plunged into level 4 lockdown, it was particularly difficult for Jay Reynolds-Carey.
Delta is hell, but cancer patients are already going through hell.
She's battling cancer for a second time. In 2004, Jay was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and now
I've now been diagnosed with breast cancer, which they believe is from the radiation.
She's had the tumour removed and has been warned if she has chemotherapy again, she could develop a 3rd type of cancer.
So I'm on a time limit. So my surgery was back in March, and I was told if I don't have the double mastectomy in 6 months, then I would have to go down the route of chemo and radiation.
Her double mastectomy was scheduled for last month, but it was cancelled 3 times because of COVID-19.
The rug was pulled from under me.
Capital and Coast DHB says surgeries will be rescheduled based on the patient's assessed level of need. It says non-deferrable and urgent surgeries continue. But Newshub can reveal Jay's is one of 37,000 surgeries cancelled across the country because of the lockdown.
If the health services were better resourced, then we would have more flexibility and things would perhaps be easier.
Clinicians will be working very carefully to prioritise people who have had surgeries that are missed, cancer and non-cancer related.
But for Jay, she can't wait for much longer.
They're playing with people's lives. And, this is my life. And that's why I'm speaking up for all of the people out there that have had their surgeries cancelled.
And Jay may not need to wait too much longer. Her surgery was just rescheduled for the end of the month.
I think everyone can agree that this is just a tragic situation. It's just one of those circumstances where you've got the cancer patients who need the surgeries, but then you've got the hospitals who are probably getting orders from the government, and they're getting orders from higher up that they can't do those kind of surgeries. So basically what I'm saying is blame the government. But this is one of those really sad situations because people need these surgeries and they're not able to get them. Now, I know a lot of people would argue that this is also the risk of COVID, that could potentially, that if they get COVID, it could be worse than them getting the surgeries because they'd still be sick. Or not worse than getting the surgery, that was a mistake. But they're talking about the health risk of them having Delta or COVID-19. I will bring up COVID-19. I'll bring up the actual case numbers. We'll look into the cases a little bit later. But before we take a look at the actual numbers of COVID-19 cases, view this clip.
Now, I was just thinking to myself, we might make some headway here, and out comes, I'm going to say it, out comes Ashley Hitler.
I'll give you a few seconds to fully get the laughter out. Cool. So, you're probably wondering, why did I play this clip of someone calling Ashley Bloomfield Ashley Hitler? Because I want to explain to you why I will be calling him Ashley Hitler whenever I can. And I also just thought it was funny, so you're welcome. But Ashley Hitler. Why has he garnered this nickname? Well, it is because he has made it clear that he does not think that we will be getting down to level 1 freedoms. Now, of course, we're heading into summer soon. By heading into summer, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's already here because it's hot as, but we're heading into summer, and a lot of people like to enjoy summer because there's a lot of festivals, music shows, and I don't know, I don't really pay attention to much of that. I just stay home and play video games. But there's a lot of summer events that people like to go about, and people have been wondering about that. Ashley Hitler has said that for most of these events, you will most likely need to show either your vaccination status, which would probably be in the form of vaccine passports, or you would need to show, like, that you've had a negative test recently. Ashley Hitler seems to believe that he and the government, they can eliminate COVID-19. And they're sticking to that elimination strategy, at least based on that article. I think they've changed that now. But let's look at actually COVID-19 a bit. Let's get into some of the more details. So, let's look at the numbers. Now I know what a lot of people are thinking. Oh, well, what numbers, what source are you using? Well, I am using, of course, New Zealand's single source of truth, the New Zealand government. This is on the Ministry of Health website. I am getting this information from the Ministry of Health. So, presumably, this is supposed to be the most reputable. I mean, this is us New Zealand's single source of truth over here. So, clearly, that's a good thing, I guess. But anyway, let's discuss how many cases there are. Now, in total, there have been 10,789 cases of COVID-19 since we first got, since in 2020. This isn't just from the Delta variant. This is COVID and Delta. Now, of course, keep in mind that this will probably change because this website is getting updated daily. So, if you look now, this is just by the time I'm recording this. By the time I've uploaded it, it'll probably change. So, yeah. But I've put a link in the description to the website, so you guys can always look back and see what the current numbers are like now. But that is the amount of COVID cases we've had overall. There are currently 5,213 active cases of COVID-19 in New Zealand. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking oh my gosh, that's a lot of cases. I mean, this is serious. My gosh, that's insane. But note how that's just almost close to being half of the total cases we've had in New Zealand. Not completely, it isn't completely half, because if you want to get really technical, it isn't. But what happened to those other cases? Well, 5,535 cases have recovered. Those are people who have had COVID-19 and have fully recovered. Now, I know what you'll think. Now, the question is then, well, what is the death total of COVID-19? Because this is pretty serious. I mean, COVID-19's been hyped up so much. So the death count's got to be freaking 7,000 people, right? Or something like that. Keep in mind, important thing, before I get onto the death count, the Ministry of Health website, the official website says this, that how they count deaths or death cases is by people who have died who have had COVID-19 while they were dead. Well, not while they were dead, of course, but they had COVID-19 and then they died. The website even says that it's not because, the cases are not, it doesn't count cases. Why can't I think this way? But the website itself states that not everyone who died in this number died from COVID-19. They could have been from other things. It was just they were active cases at the time of death, and apparently that counts. So, how many active people who had COVID died? In total, 41. There have been 41 people who have died or who have been active cases of COVID and died during this whole pandemic. Not just Delta, but COVID as well, like the regular COVID-19 strand. All of these severe I haven't even scratched the surface of a lot of the negative effects of lockdowns and the government's policies. Don't worry, I will as the show continues, I will explain more and more elements. But let's just look at what we've covered so far in the show. We've had over 30,000 surgeries cancelled. We've had to spend billions of dollars to keep the economy from crashing after going into lockdown. We've had... Oh man, I can't even remember what else we did. I was going to say we've had to suspend Parliament, but that's like the only good thing that happened is that Parliament was suspended for a week. That was the only good thing that happened. Okay, actually, that's not even true. Okay, well, out of the governments, it was like one of the only good policies Jacinda Ardern has done in this battle against COVID. Yeah, there we go, because there has been good stuff that has happened over the period of lockdown, at least for certain people's individual lives, but we're not going to discuss that. And all of that was for a virus that has not even, at most, 41 people who have died from it, but actually that's not even true. It's just 41 people who were active cases have died, not even because of COVID. That's the maximum number. 5,535, I hope so, I'm pretty sure, cases have recovered. That's over half of the total cases in New Zealand has recovered. Guys, I understand that we want to be careful with COVID and we should be taking precautions, but guys, I think we're just going a bit overboard here. All of these restrictions, and it was constantly on the 1 p.m. and the 4 p.m. I don't know, I haven't watched them, but constantly has been drilled into our brains that we need to unite against COVID, we need to fight against COVID, we need to eliminate COVID. And, based on the numbers, if you caught COVID, you'd be totally fine. But anyway, let's move on from New Zealand botching its fight against COVID, and let's move on to America's botching its fight against COVID. I know we haven't talked much about a lot of Joe Biden's bad policies. So let's fix that. Let's remedy that mistake. Apparently, because Joe Biden has been trying to mandate that, he's been trying to introduce a vaccine mandate to get a lot of as many workers as he can vaccinated, as is pretty much everyone who isn't a conservative, which is seeming like all of the people in power. Yay. But here's the thing. He is trying to get as many workers as he can vaccinated, but he's not doing that for people illegally crossing the border. As shown in this article, and this clip as well, as confirmed by Psaki. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but I also don't care.
Why is it that you're trying to require anybody with a job or anybody who goes to school to get the COVID-19 vaccine, but you are not requiring that of migrants that continue walking across the southern border into the country?
Well, look, our objective is to get as many people vaccinated across the country as humanly possible. And so the president's announcement yesterday was an effort to empower businesses, to give businesses the tools to protect their workforces. That's exactly what we did. But certainly we want everybody to get vaccinated, and more people are vaccinated, whether they are migrants or whether they are workers, protects more people in the United States.
But it's a requirement for people at a business with more than 100 people. It is not a requirement for migrants at the southern border. Why?
That's correct. Go ahead.
Now, some people may be trying to say, oh, well, it's not too bad, if the situation at the border isn't bad. Yeah, let's look at the numbers again. Apparently, over 212,000 people illegally crossed the border, which was in July, which was higher than in, I think it was May or June or something. You guys can sort of read around here, so I'm a bit fuzzy on some of the details, but there was over 180,000 people who crossed the border during the Trump era. By the Trump era, I mean last year when they were dealing with COVID. And by last... Oh, wait, I think I did actually get that right. Sweet, go me. But apparently about Biden's vaccine mandate, it applies to federal workers unless they apply for a religious or medical exemption, and I think another kind of workers, but you guys, again, can read. And also Apparently, also it requires for for businesses who have over 100 workers, either like they impose a vaccine mandate or they subject their staff to weekly testing. But if you're a business owner, I mean, you better not try to fight this vaccine mandate, because otherwise you'll have to pay $13,600 for every violation. This would definitely crush small businesses who wanted to fight this. So, like with the previous segment that discussed all of the cancer surgeries, like getting postponed in New Zealand, it's just the government enforcing bad policies, and like the people who are in the middle, who are like the business owner or the hospitals, they kind of have to roll with it, and then the employees get screwed, and it's a really bad situation. You guys better not vote these guys back into office next election. If you do, then I don't feel bad for anything that happens to you. I mean, I do, but come on, guys. Just vote for not literally anyone else. In New Zealand, it's kind of harder because basically every political party is the exact same, and they all agree on like all of the bad stuff. At least with America, you've got like a few decent guys. But apparently Biden has told critics of his mandates to have at it, and that it's meaning to be challenged in court. Come on, guys, let's challenge him in court. He's daring us to go to court over these vaccine things. Let's go. Let's do this. Wait, what's that? According to my imaginary earpiece, it doesn't exist. Someone is trying to fight it in court. Yes! Apparently, a federal judge has temporarily blocked the vaccine mandate for schools and healthcare. I mean, education sector, not healthcare. Granted, this is only a temporary fix, because last time I read, I haven't followed up on this because I don't know how. But this judge has been trying to sort of almost take a pause, and now like everyone's trying to look at whether or not this is just. So temporarily, it's blocked, and it was blocked days before it would go into effect. So for the moment, they have this time. We're waiting on this. I think it was a judge from the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. And so, hopefully, what happens in this case is the vaccine mandate gets thrown out and then, because America, I'm a New Zealander, you probably know this. In fact, America, I don't even think I'll have any American viewers watching this right now, but trust me, we've had a vaccine mandate for our education workers and our healthcare workers, and a lot of workers. A lot of people lost their jobs. We're not too sure how many. I haven't found the exact numbers, but a lot of people lost their jobs. And what New Zealand is doing is they're bringing in teachers. They're giving border exemptions to over 300 teachers. Don't do what we did. Of course, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio is against delaying the vaccine mandate, but if he's against it, then that just means you're on the right track. Now, of course, it wouldn't be a Rightwing Nation episode if we didn't bash California and its horrible democratic policies. Apparently, their gas price is now $759 a gallon. I know what you're thinking. That sucks, because it's a lot. People are going to spend a lot of money on gas. But it isn't just a California thing. So, red states and everyone else, don't laugh too hard just yet, because nationwide, gas prices have been going up. With it having increased 55% from a year ago. That's a lot. Okay, so we've got a bit of bashing of the Biden administration. Always a good time. But now it's time to talk about Australia. What's happening in Australia? Hold on, my imaginary earpiece is going off again. They're killing sheltered dogs to prevent the spread of COVID. What? Yeah, so apparently the NSW, which I think is New South Wales, I'm not too sure, but apparently the Council of NSW decided to, instead of to rescue some shelter dogs, that they were just going to shoot them. Because they were concerned that the travel would be against the travel to rescue them would be against the COVID-19 restrictions. And one of the dogs that was killed recently had given birth to a litter of puppies. Wow, that's a definite mood drop. What makes the situation worse is apparently the place that this happened in didn't even have a case of COVID. I think we need a bit of a palate cleanser story to just sort of make us feel better in a way. Let's go over to Melbourne. What's happening in Melbourne? There, a local couple was fined $3,200 because they traveled like 34 kilometers to get some fried chicken. That should hopefully do the trip. So apparently this couple was one of the 76 other Victorians who breached COVID protocols in 24 hours. But apparently the police have issued 10,753 infringements since Victoria's second wave of COVID and level 3, and I think it's roughly estimated to like $15 million in fines overall that's been issued, I believe. I guess people are just getting as sick of it and all the restrictions as New Zealand is starting to. But, yeah, I don't really have much else to add on this. Let's move on to this clip.
Hey, mate. Oh my God.
That was hard to watch. Now, I know a lot of people would say that you'd almost want to see like the police footage of what led up to that incident, like maybe she instigated it. But while that may be true, it was still excessive force nonetheless, because he kept choking her, and that's just not okay. The amount of, and especially for how long he was doing it, she could have died. And of course, if you've seen the news coverage, a lot of it sort of blames her for it, or at least tries to. Wow, this is a very dark, that's all the stories I have time for now. My breakfast, which I will probably be eating at like 5 o'clock, don't ask, is about almost done. This is a very dark way to end the Rightwing Nation. Australia, you guys need to sort yourselves out. Stay tuned for more content. If you guys got any stories you guys would want me to cover, comment them down below and I'll research them. Here, enjoy this clip again.
Ashley hit